At first, this looked like a love story. Two people meet. Intense chemistry. Passion that feels unstoppable. But sometimes, what looks like love is actually obsession. If you're into true crime that dives deep into toxic relationships and psychological breakdowns, make sure to like the video. This case is one of the most disturbing for a reason. In 2006, Jodi Arias met Travis Alexander at a conference in Las Vegas. He was charismatic, confident, deeply religious, and well-liked. She was charming, intelligent, and immediately drawn to him. The connection was instant and intense. Friends described their relationship as passionate but unstable. Breakups followed reunions. Arguments followed declarations of love. On the surface, it looked like two people who couldn't let go. But beneath that surface, something was already wrong. Jodi didn't just love Travis, she attached to him. His routines, his friends, his beliefs. She molded herself to fit perfectly into his world. To outsiders, it looked like devotion. In reality, it was dependency. Travis struggled with boundaries. He pulled her close, then pushed her away. Each time, the tension escalated. No one imagined violence. They saw drama, not danger. By the end of this part, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't just a bad relationship. It was the beginning of an obsession. As the relationship fractured, Jodi didn't let go. She tightened her grip. What looked like heartbreak was something darker. Rejection didn't push her away. It destabilized her sense of self. Travis setting boundaries felt like an existential threat. She needed control, and she was losing it. Jodi monitored his life obsessively. Social media, emails, new women. Every sign that Travis was moving on fueled resentment and humiliation. She reframed herself as the victim, misunderstood and discarded after everything she gave. And slowly, her internal narrative shifted. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about being replaced. Friends noticed changes. Mood swings. Intensity. A fixation that didn't fade. Travis was the center of every conversation, even when they were no longer together. Boundaries didn't exist in her mind. At the same time, she managed her image carefully. Calm and spiritual to some. Wounded and emotional to others. Sympathy always stayed on her side. Inside, anger fermented. She replayed arguments, imagined confrontations, fantasized about regaining power, about not being the one left behind. This is where obsession crosses a dangerous threshold. When loss feels unbearable, and control feels necessary for survival. This breakup wasn't fading. It was hardening. The final confrontation didn't look dramatic from the outside. No public argument. No visible warning. Just an ordinary night behind closed doors. When Travis Alexander was found dead in his home, the scene told a story words couldn't. The violence was intense, personal, overwhelming. This wasn't opportunity, it was release. Investigators knew immediately. This wasn't random. The wound showed rage born from proximity, not chance. Whoever did this knew him, knew the space, knew where to strike. The last known person to see Travis alive was Jodi Arias. At first, she denied being there. Then she admitted visiting, claiming self-defense. Then her story changed again. Each version contradicted the last. Physical evidence told a different story. A camera. Photos taken just before the attack. Images of normal moments, followed by sudden terror. This wasn't a single snap. It was escalation. Choices made repeatedly. The brutality shocked the public. Media coverage exploded. What began as a private unraveling became a national obsession. This wasn't one bad night. It was obsession reaching its endpoint. Once the investigation focused on Jodi, the narrative shifted fast and publicly. Her accounts kept changing. Intruders, self-defense, accidental escalation. Each version cast her as a victim. But inconsistencies piled up. Evidence doesn't care about stories. Digital records placed her at the scene. Phone data contradicted timelines. The camera images were impossible to explain away, not just for what they showed, but when they were taken. As the case moved toward trial, public interest exploded. Courtrooms filled. News ran non-stop coverage. Social media dissected every word, gesture, and expression. Jodi didn't retreat. She leaned into visibility. Her demeanor shifted depending on the audience. Emotional, detached, calm to the point of discomfort. Experts debated her psychology endlessly. Meanwhile, Travis's family watched their grief turn into content. The defense reframed the relationship as abusive on both sides. But the evidence pressed harder with each witness. Then the narrative broke. The jury didn't see a scared woman fighting for her life. They saw someone trying to control the story after losing control of everything else. This wasn't about doubt anymore. It was about accountability. The verdict wasn't a surprise, but it was heavy. Jodi Arias was found guilty. This wasn't a misunderstood love story. It was murder. The sentencing forced an uncomfortable truth. Obsession doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, manipulates, and waits. Psychologists later described the case as fixation combined with narcissistic traits and a deep fear of abandonment. Control wasn't optional, it was necessary. And when it was threatened, everything collapsed. For Travis Alexander's family, justice didn't bring peace. Their loss had been replayed, debated, and reduced to spectacle. This case changed how people talk about toxic relationships. It showed how manipulation can hide behind vulnerability. How warning signs feel familiar until it's too late. How obsession, left unchecked, can turn lethal. If this story made you uncomfortable, that's the point. Because the scariest part isn't the crime. It's how recognizable the early signs can be. What do you think was the moment this could have been stopped? Share your thoughts below. Some stories don't end with answers. They end with lessons we wish we'd learned sooner.